guys do with that?
We got a lot less kids, and when your numbers get up there now, are you guys doing inclusion there? Because that's pretty much what they're.
I can't find one of the things that I know I printed off and I saw. Just can't find one of the.
Hello,
maybe
today
I
is
put them
May
in
7th,
this.
2026, and here we're opening the Historic Preservation Board meeting. Call for an approval of minutes. Everybody have a chance to. John?
Is there discussion about, will we have any discussion before we approve them?
Do we
That's what
do a
I'm asking.
motion to approve and then,
Are there
Yeah.
any corrections to the minutes?
Well, I mean, one trivial one is that they misspelled my first name at the beginning, but otherwise they corrected it. But no, the main thing is I would ask that since we have this technical capability these days to reproduce a more accurate and full record of what was discussed, we should start doing it, transcribing more of, there's these summary things saying, well, there was discussion about this sort of thing, and there was another discussion about that sort of thing. But if you were a member of the public trying to find out, what the issues were and what went on, you'd be pretty much out of it unless you went through all the extra hoops of going and reading the entire transcript of the hour or whatever it was of the meeting. So I think it would be a better service to all concerned to have it written out a little more fully in the minutes, what was said, so that people have a better idea. The consequence of not doing it, I've noticed over the years, is the same thing comes up again and again because the people who are presently debating it weren't aware of how it was discussed previously, so.
So based on what the board wants to do, these minutes are all done across the board for all meetings. They wanted you refer to the video, exactly where the discussion is, and there's a transcription of the entire meeting on the website as well. So the minutes are just to touch on the business, who spoke about it in the beginning and presented it, what was discussed for the business, and then the vote has to be right.
Well, obviously, that's the attitude presently of the people organizing this. I'm suggesting that
me.
they do a better job.
That would be Clerk Green and myself. That would be Clerk Green, the
Okay,
commissioners,
good.
and myself.
She seems a reasonable
I would-
person, so we should take it to her.
And you say there is a written transcript available
On the website, yes, ma'am, where the
Okay.
video is found.
where the video is?
Yes, ma'am,
okay.
it's word for word in the transcription there.
Cool.
Oh, oh,
New knowledge, thank you.
yeah, I've been having trouble getting access to this thing. I don't know why, whether it's the,
So all videos of this meeting
Yes.
and minutes and the transcription is actually available on the county website, which is
yes,
at
I'm aware that it's supposed to
claycountygov.com.
be, I just haven't
Yes.
had a lot of luck.
That's what I'm saying.
doing
So it's actually given to you through there, and you can find all of them through there. So if you need any help finding that, just let me know, because I'd be glad to help you with that.
Oh,
Because
good.
that's where all of the minutes are kept
Good.
and videos for every meeting, with the exception of one, which is on YouTube.
Okay, well, good.
I had a question because I'm relatively 6 months new, I guess. So have been reading our our section 12, 7, and 8. It says that copies of the minutes would be given to us.
They
printed off.
are in your agenda every week.
I thought it was printed off at the meetings or something like that.
Oh, no, they're available to you, however your agenda is given to you for the meeting. They're attached to every agenda for the meeting. Yes,
I
ma'am.
see them.
Yeah. But I don't have control over the agenda. I work directly for the clerk, and only because of Amendment 10 back in 2020, I just do the minutes for each meeting. I don't have anything to do with the agenda, but they are put on the agenda for your review before each meeting.
Well, this is somewhat relevant to what we're talking about, for how much of this kind of work that you do for us as a committee is, it says that we must elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And people have said, well, you don't need it for minutes anymore. We don't need all of that. However, some of these things called like petitions for historic designations, apparently someone could walk in and get a form and hand it to us. and then we're supposed to respond. Is that something that you handle or
No,
Beth
ma'am.
handles?
I specifically do only the minutes for any BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, and any Board of County Commissioner-driven meeting, I do the minutes for. I don't have
Right,
anything else.
right.
That's
But,
it.
well, maybe this is for Beth
And
then.
I know
Yeah.
it says in there for the secretary, but that changed in 2020 because the voters voted for this position to go to the clerk of the court.
Okay.
and no
I
longer.
think part of the
Yes, ma'am.
secretarial, I'm thinking if somebody wrote a letter to us saying, thank you for this, or I'd like you to look into this, you know,
If somebody was to send that to me, I would actually directly send it to staff, which would be Ms. Carson, because
okay,
yeah.
just curious.
if
So
I
we
get
really
anything
don't
like that,
need a
or phone calls,
secretary
I
then.
direct them directly to who they need to speak to, which would be staff over here.
And so if anyone provided a petition, I would receive it and then I would present it to you at the next meeting. And as far as correspondence, anybody can reach out to you directly to your email that is on the website, so.
Well, while we're talking about emails, I know I sent you an email nominating someone and I don't see them on the list. Well, I do, because I was recommending Sean for chair and Stephen for vice chair. And I texted and got a reply to you, and not at the last minute. And I'm on the committee, so, nominating committee.
Yes, ma'am. You told me verbally over the phone that you agreed with Rita's nomination of them because I had shared that with you.
Right.
So I just did not include you in
Okay.
that nomination as a second because we were just,
Well,
That's
I
how they were
also
nominated.
I attempted to send a written response to you also,
Yes,
which I
ma'am,
thought
you
I had
did.
printed off here, but I'm not seeing it.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I second.
Minutes are approved. Ooh,
You have to vote on it.
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We are on to public comment. No one's here. Now we are into old business. First, discussion of the slate of officer candidates.
So I've provided to you the summary, which was also provided in your minutes or your invite for the meeting here today. The nominations for chair, vice chair, and how they were nominated. You have a copy of that in front of you. Yes, Barbara did confirm also that she agreed with Rita's nomination for Sean as chair and Stephen as vice chair. Melissa obviously nominated Jerry, and Jerry, you provided an email that said you were not interested because you were going to be traveling.
Well, I don't even think I'm really qualified because my term will be ending very shortly, so, no, yeah,
Your term.
I
your-
would rather defer, yeah, I'm sorry, I'd rather defer to Sean, new blood, he's got a great voice. Yes.
I just have a question about the process. My recollection is at the last meeting, we had formed a committee that was going to do the nominations.
Right.
Can I ask what happened with that?
Well, what happened in a way is, we were told we had to find a certain place and not talk to each other and not get provided telephone numbers, but when this list went, like Rita nominated, I went, oh, that's a good choice, so I let Beth know I agreed with that, and, so we didn't actually call people, and, at that time, when I talked to her verbally on the phone, she was saying that she would contact you and Sean to make sure that you wanted the job, and I didn't hear back your response. We're hoping you do. And we, as in 2 out of 3, said it public. I don't know. Jerry's the third one.
Okay, yeah, I just was concerned about what happened with the committee doing the nominations.
Part of it was how to get together and what's the format. I think it's the first time, or at least in 5 years, that we've done it, although it is required that we do it. So maybe next year, we'll get more organized as far as doing it.
Well, the final detail that, you know, the staff seem to be implying that we ought to actually physically call each candidate in for an interview. which has never been done to my knowledge. Yes. So that seemed to be the final straw as to impracticable within the short compass of time we had to work in, so.
Is that accurate? That is, just for future reference?
So I believe in the last meeting, there was discussion about having a subcommittee meeting. And you wanted to interview the candidates. I believe that was what you had stated. And so in order to interview them, you would have to have them in
Not-
a public setting.
Not really interviewing. Most places, and everybody's been on committees, and they usually have nominating committees. They usually are held privately with the three people with telephone numbers, so that when we all get together and say, hey, we'd like this, we would like Sean, we'd call them up and say, Sean, we'd really like you to be, would you like to be? And Steve, or do you want to run for chair instead of Sean? Or are you happy learning the ropes the first time? And so at this point, Beth said we could not do that. We had to do everything publicly, which I don't believe I found in the Sunshine Law. They don't really talk about nominating committees. They talk about one nominating committee was mentioned. And they did hold them privately, because how can you talk about people and have it go on a public record when you're really saying, oh, she's too negative, I don't think she'd do well in public, or hey, this guy is so fantastic, he's brand new, I'm really, really gung-ho for him. That is not usually kept in minutes. The fact that we nominated you is in minutes. And I say we because 2 out of 3 came out publicly saying, this is what we would like. We didn't need to talk to you. We feel like we know you well enough.
Okay, just for future reference, I wanted to discuss what happened, so.
What would you like to have happen if you were on a nominating committee?
Well, just that, well, we follow whatever we're gonna say we do, and it was the last day, last minute, I found out that we didn't have a nominating committee and we were doing nominations from the floor. So I was caught rather off guard. I didn't know who qualified. I was told at first Sean was unable to qualify because he's one of my first thoughts. So it created a lot of confusion, last minute stuff on my behalf where I didn't think I had an opportunity to properly think through and help with the process.
So the county attorney was consulted on this, and she responded with that Sean, if he applied for continuation on the board, as long as you were extended by the Board of County Commissioners, you would be eligible. And so you could then be, eligible for chair, and if you weren't extended, then you would have to come up with an alternative. So
Okay.
it's a matter of, this is different than a historical society. This is a board, a public board that has to act in sunshine. So historical society can act differently. You can go have private meetings and discuss things and people and that kind of thing. So the process was that you would have your committee meeting, and you could call in your candidates and interview them as the nominating committee. But because this was the limited slate that we had, in discussing it with Barbara, I believe you felt there was no need to have the meeting.
Right, well, I thought if I came up with 2 choices that Rita did, and we were 2 on the committee, and no, we didn't talk about it other than that. And I don't know if Jerry communicated to you directly what he thought, but.
He did send an email late, yes. I mean, later, not late, but
Okay.
yes.
All righty.
He's in agreement with it?
He was voicing his opinion of, I don't recall, Jerry, if you had said your opinion of the chair and vice chair nominees. I know it said something about you would be traveling and would
Well,
not
yeah,
be.
I also supported the previous, nomination of Sean and Steve. That was in my message, I believe, so, yeah, so.
Then you're unanimous, basically. So-
All right, just wanted to bring it up so that in the future, perhaps we may have learned something here, how to proceed better in the future. All right.
So now we're now do we take a vote on the conclusion?
Oh, yes, whether to confirm these people, right? I move that we
Do I go
accept
straight
the
to
slate.
do I go to a motion or to a vote?
mean, perhaps you should clarify the slate, that it's
Yes,
the three, uh, yourself for chair and Stephen as vice chair.
yes,
Melissa, I believe you said you were not interested. Was that the case?
true.
No, unless there's just like no other option.
Okay.
Okay, so that's my proposal, so does it need to be seconded, or do we just vote?
Well, so the slate
That's the
for
slate.
is chair for myself and for vice chair, Stephen Griffith. And
Steve,
if anyone wants to, I would like to motion.
You can make,
so move?
I'll second.
Call for a vote. All for yes, say aye.
Aye.
For nay? Vote is closed.
okay, so you have your slate. So technically, the vote occurs in the June meeting. So I will put your two names on the agenda for
Okay.
voting. And then the winners would take office in August.
The vote goes through at the county commissioner meeting, is that? No. Okay,
It's this meeting.
okay.
But there would be at that time nominations from the floor could be made. That's what I read in here. So it's probably you guys.
We have a cemetery work update on second item.
Well, I think everyone will be relieved that this should be fairly short today. We had the FPAN, the Florida Public Archaeological Network, come out, and they're doing their ground survey. Their machine was down for a while. So, and they're gonna keep coming out every month until we get most of all the cemeteries surveyed, and that's pretty much my update.
I have Kathy's information. So regarding the Souter Cemetery, am I saying that right?
Solder, yes,
Solder?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. There was a Keep Clay Beautiful event on April 20th that included Souter. Volunteers were able to clean up the vegetation. There was also some stone cleaning that was completed, and there was an application submitted to the VA for a military stone for James Keene. And regarding the McKendree Cemetery, some volunteers came out to that site on April 12th to do some vegetation cleanup. There were some stone repairs done, and there is more to do in May. And the FPAN donated restoration supplies for cemetery work. So
Yes.
that is Kathy's update for the month.
Is there a projected time by which the FPAN survey will be wrapped up?
Not really, but they're gonna have enough of it done that we hope to present for the Clay County Historical Society in January, and I'm gonna present with the archaeologist Emily Moore together about the cemetery. So we think we're gonna have about 75 to 80% of it done by then. Enough to really get a kind of a good picture of what we have out there.
Going to move into our third item, discussion of community recognition categories.
So last month, Steve had provided some categories, and you all asked to have this put on the agenda for discussion at this month's meeting. So those are the categories. There should be extra.
And if I could comment, I didn't mean for these to be ground in stone. This was just my first initial thinking, and any input you guys can give or thoughts that you had about it would be greatly appreciated.
Well, I think you mentioned that the owner of the property, of the cemetery you've been working so hard on, was very cordial and cooperative and helpful and beyond the usual just permission. So I would certainly be in favor of him being nominated for that kind of recognition. there are a couple people or more on this board who I would actually recommend, but that may sound like we're praising ourselves, like the Academy Award or something, so.
All right, well, for a matter of, let's put this to use. What category? This was the landowner, Charlie Sohm, that owned the land around the cemetery.
Yeah.
He ended up helping clear all the stumps with his own money and putting a fence around it. And then just being totally 100% supportive of
Yeah.
us. So what category, let's make sure our categories work here. What would you see this falling under?
Preserving, I
Okay.
mean, that would be the main
All right,
thing, yeah.
I like the categories, but I think this is brand new, so I think we have to kind of develop more how many, when, where, who, what's the process? Do we print out a little piece of paper? Do we go down to a print shop with something that looks like a certificate? Do we invite them here to praise them in person? I think it would be good to do that. It's sounds like it's a nice thing to do, but because we're legal, I think we need to set more. I like the areas of recognition. That sounds good. So we have 3 categories. That's the beginning, but then how soon, when, where, what, who's paying for the certificate if it's not just a piece of paper?
So the county's communications team would be designing the certificate, so we needed to have the particular categories that you would want to have recognition for so that they can design the certificates for you. So that's the purpose of getting this started here so that we could get them started on designing the certificates.
Well, how about I move that we create a category called certificates of recognition, that this board will hand out 3 a month, 5 a month.
What?
I'm concerned if we put a number on it that we might be at times.
Just giving it away, yeah.
Why don't we get the certificate designed? Why don't we try giving one to somebody that's like Charlie that we know, Richard Knopf, who was very helpful as well, and see how the process works, and then talk about how often and how we would move forward from there.
Okay, well, I modify my proposal of whatever. What would you even call this? What am I saying?
Motion.
Well,
Yeah, I move that we start a recognition certificate by this board. Details to be amended later.
Okay? And as for having someone, yeah, I'd love to have someone actually come in and be recognized in front of the board, and
Be on TV, yeah.
yeah, the certificate would be part of that, receiving the certificate.
and so our communications team, along with designing the certificate, they are also the ones that put out information on our website, create content for our website. And so they would like to do a story to feature. So that's why we need a little bit more advance time so that we can get the information from whoever's wanting to recognize this individual or company or whatever.
Okay.
So I think the first step is get the categories determined. Second is get communication to design it for you. I'll bring it back to you so you can see it. And then you can be thinking who you want to be recognizing based on the categories you arrive at. Hopefully you can arrive tonight. Think about who you want to bring back to recognize and why. And we'll need a little bit of information from you, and probably our communications team would want to get in touch with you to find out the story. What's, the reason behind it. So that would be my suggestion, and
I'm not sure
the background of all this.
Can our minutes person say what my final motion was?
Haven't made it, yeah, you gotta finish it.
Oh,
So, because once you finish your motion, you'll second, and then everybody has to vote on it, but it will say.
okay, I know I wasn't clear.
The
Um,
vote has to be verbatim. Everything else is touching on the business. And then who presented the item, who brought it up, who presented it, what the business that was discussed, but your vote will have to be exactly how it was said.
Okay,
So you might want to just clarify exactly how you want
Right,
to do the vote.
okay.
And then exactly how it ends is how it'll be in the minutes.
okay, I move that we create certificates of recognition to be awarded to people that follow into excessive, not excessive, wrong word, extreme
Outstanding.
helpfulness to our board.
I'm okay
Someone like the second?
motioning for that, yeah.
I second the motion.
Board for a vote? For yes, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Any for nay? Does that close out the discussion on that, Beth? That does?
Once I do the vote, that does.
Okay.
Guess those categories are.
Okay. We're gonna move on to new business. Desecration versus identification versus restoration for our cemeteries. Duties of Historical Preservation Society. Barbara?
Yes, I put that on partly because historically, the idea, I started researching what different groups, what their burial customs are. It was quite fascinating. I'll present it later. Some of the different cultures, what happened in, you'll say, oh, this was a black cemetery or something. Well, we believe that a cemetery should look neat and have headstones and have names on them. Well, in the slave days, they would have hush ceremonies because they had to do it at night in secret. They would actually sometimes bury people in swampy, marshy lands so that no one would disturb the graves later. It was not a good time. I mean, the times of lynching, what do you think a bunch of teenage boys would do to a new grave? In my culture, Nordic culture, we don't do a big deal. We put them in the ground, and we like to plant a tree on them. So every time I hear we're cutting down all the trees on the cemetery, and it's part of the idea of I will then, plant an orange tree on me, and then I have helped fertilize that tree and helped it to grow and share it a life. There were several other ones like that about how do they preserve grave sites for a long time or not? I just think we should make sure. It's one thing to identify and to respect, but the idea of having to make them look like a Methodist cemetery isn't necessarily true. We've had problems finding, or Kathy has, finding information on Catholic cemeteries. I mean, this was a Spanish area. I don't hear us going back. I think one of the ones she said was recent, the last person buried was in 1979. Well, to me, that's very recent. When we're in Florida, we have St. Augustine, and there's some settlements that were even before that, pretty much, especially if you, I just think it would be nice to go back a little further and have some Spanish cemeteries, maybe have the people, the Native Americans who lived here, what were their practices? Maybe we should put up a marker that this was where their village was and this was where they buried them, but we don't have to clear cut it. So I know all that was with good intent, but that's why I want to make sure that our job isn't done with our today knowledge, and that we would make it more like historic and understand that if you buried people and then they would put white shells on their grave. They didn't put markers up. That was their way of communicating. So let's just say, just personally, and they do have some of these natural burials now where they wrap you in a cotton sheet and bury you, and they put a tree, they plant a tree on you because that's just kind of it's in some of our heritages. So let's try to make sure that we don't undo things the way they wanted it done. So cutting down the tree over me would have been the wrong thing to do. Sorry. So I just want to make that point. So we don't, and also, I'll joke around. I mean, if we find some of these things, if we say, hey, this is a great historic house, we don't usually just start going in and saying, hey, I could put in a new sink. Hey, I can do this. So, to me, when I read through what our duties are, it's a lot of finding out the history, doing all this. And I know you're in other historical societies that do the work and clear the ground. When I read through what we're supposed to do, it's identifying, designating, approving, and petitions for historic designations, researching them, finding out are they valid. It's not too much the fun part, or I find it satisfying to do what you did. The actual restoration of these properties, we might try to help them get a grant, or, and since, I'm just kind of curious, the other part is, one of our duties is when people send in a petition for historic designation, we're supposed to review it, have meetings, and I've been here since October, and I don't remember ever hearing about a petition for historic designations. And I just wondered, how many do we get?
In 5 years, there's been none, and there were none before then. So it means that a person would have to make their property subject to some regulation,
Right.
some evaluation by this board. And there's no incentive necessarily to do that. Some other counties, cities have a financial incentive. But,
Well,
you would have to find a receptive.
I watched the presentation that we were able to watch, that I think Rita was on it too. Yes, I saw member 4 on there. And just some of it where, I guess he's in the panhandle somewhere, like trying to pick out which colors is okay for this person to paint their house. And so, to me, apparently I live in a historic house. I don't think so, but I like the historic to be 100 years older. But I'll have to talk to the state legislature about that. But yeah, I didn't see any advantage. The only thing that I read in our thing, the only advantage is that you don't have to necessarily do modern building codes and stuff. So I guess if you did want to renovate, declare your house historic, and then now they say you must have 2 feet away from the heating source where your electric is versus your bathtub, that you don't have to. You could maybe build smaller rooms or smaller closets or whatever all the building codes are. So that would be an advantage, I guess, but otherwise, so we really don't have to worry about that then.
Well, I think that we could energize that topic and get more incentives going in order to get, us back on track where we're designating and having activity. So there's opportunity there for me, and I believe that Beth is probably correct when it comes to incentives, and the structure right now is not really, I think, leaning that way. But there's not to say that that's our duty, and if we care about these buildings, I believe that we should energize.
I think
more areas.
what was shocking is it in all our pages that I would imagine it would be the owner of the property, but someone else can actually put in one of these petitions for historic designations other than the owner.
True,
And
you
then the owner has to,
acquiesce, otherwise it goes nowhere, yeah.
Yeah.
But that is a good idea, you could talk it up. But I think the other key to making this happen is to somehow arrive at an acceptable way of designating certain areas or buildings to be in a historic district, the way they are done in St. Augustine and Jacksonville and places like that. So even in Green Cove, we've got one or two, depending on how you look at it. So, but we haven't actually gotten much farther in unincorporated areas with designated historic sections or even individual structures. So that's something that deserves a lot of, and I have to say I've met to do more of that myself, find out what Jacksonville's different historic designation areas are and what they require. And if we did, and if we somehow got the cooperation of the county commissioners, perhaps they could build a little bit of financial incentives into it too, the way it's often done elsewhere. So,
Did you say that a lot of those are connected to 501Cs or some sort of, the actual board themselves?
Historical societies are typically a 501c3, a private nonprofit.
Yeah.
This board has, obviously is tied to the Board of County Commissioners, so they're separate. You do have a list, an Excel file that I've provided you a link to that has the age of all the structures, the year they were built. So you could be identifying locations that maybe you want to contact the property owner and suggest they consider.
Yep.
And if that link has expired, because sometimes links do expire after a time period and it's not working and you can't access the files, let me know and I will send you a fresh link.
Are we aware of what incentives are on the board to offer and whatnot in the structure of that?
Right now, there are none.
Okay.
You could look at other counties and see what they have. Typically, it's a financial, like an ad valorem tax incentive. But
so far as my impression from listening to some of these expert webinars giving details about incentives, financial incentives, so far they almost always seem to involve historic commercial properties. Very little have I seen about, at least in Florida, I've seen very little about private dwellings. But that's not to say we couldn't, it could certainly be built into a tax exemptions and things like that, I think would be the way to go.
This just reminded me, did you make any headway with the possibility of the old jail becoming on the National Registry?
I have spoken to Vichy, and we are going to coordinate a time to get that. I know the hours are a little bit tricky for me during the week, but it's a matter of coordination, and then we're going to proceed. She actually was excited to hear that.
All right, very good.
Close out new business. Is that okay, Barbara? Moving into public comment. No public. Now to staff comments.
I just have one. May is National Historic Preservation Month, and the county recognizes historic preservation, this board, as well as the Archives Office. And they will be reading a proclamation next Tuesday afternoon, sometime just shortly after 4 o'clock. You're all invited to attend and be in the photo and be recognized. Billy Gould will definitely be there, and he may speak. But just, will you let me know if you'll be coming so I can let our communications team?
Well, what is the consequence of coming or not if you're not one of the leaders of the presentation?
It's up to you whether you want to be there in the photo or not.
Oh, well, yes, okay. So, I mean, I saw at one point they were saying, well, maybe you'll just be invited to stand up where you are, and not be on the dais, if there is such a thing as the dais, but, yeah.
They typically bring everyone forward and the commissioners will come down and take a picture with you.
Yes, I've seen that done, right. So is that what you think will be done this time?
Yes,
Good.
That's at the next county commissioner meeting. Can you say that?
The 12th.
May 12th
Okay, thank you.
at 4 p.m.
Yep.
And so, do you know your schedules, if you'll definitely
I
be
don't,
able
I'll
to?
have to email you if I can.
Okay. Thank you, if you would.
I guess I could say I intend to be there,
Okay,
but who knows what may happen in between now and
okay,
things happen.
all right. They just would like to have a list of names of who will be there. And that's all I have.
Okay.
On to board member comments. Start with Barbara.
I said enough, thank you.
Well, one just leftover detail that occurs to me is when we last had our meeting, Billy was responding to something I mentioned. Two markers were no longer visible to me. One was for Fort San Francisco de Pupo, and the other was for Fort Heileman. And eventually, he found by looking on his own phone that Fort Heileman's sign still exists, but it's not where it was, and it's down very close to the ground. So I would suggest that it be put closer to the old Main Street, where that was the way into the, it wasn't really a fort most of the time. It was a huge depot, sprawling thing with 18 buildings, horse stables and all the rest. So I'd like to see it move closer to where it belongs. In fact, I'd like to see it replaced with a new sign because they misspelled Heileman when they first put the sign up. But so far, Billy said he was going to look into what happened to the Fort Pupo sign, which
And
was,
he did, it's there. It's still there.
where, did he take an image of it?
By the bridge. He didn't take an image. I've seen it as well. It's by the, I've seen the picture of it. It is by the bridge where there was the construction. It's still there.
Okay, well, I go by there a lot, and it used to be there, but I haven't seen it, so, yeah. Hope it's not being reprocessed by some enterprising people.
Melissa,
Okay. No?
Rita? Steve?
I just want to mention that this Saturday will be the Clay County Historical Society's Railroad Festival. So, and it hasn't been done for like 17, 18 years, I believe. So it'd be from 4 to 6 at the Historic Triangle.
Very good. It was done more recently than that, but it depended apparently on the energy and organization of the clerk of Green Cove Springs. And when he passed away, it sort of went down the drain, but it was still being done when I first arrived 11 years ago, 12. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
It has been in abeyance for a while, it's true, yeah.
And for me, I just lay out what I think the next year. I don't know if we've talked too much about our goal as a board, but for the next year, I think we could spend a lot of energy and effort getting back and familiar with our original charter. I know we've mentioned that before. It seems like everybody here is energized by it. So whatever suggestions come up, let's work through that process. If you guys are willing to really do a lot of that groundwork and lay out what I think we can get back for this community, understanding what exactly our responsibility is. And that's all from me. This meeting is adjourned.